but he's Gronk. That's all you have to. I mean, never has somebody's nickname fit his personality and his intelligence better than Gronk.
They love him up in Boston, don't
Gronk.
They love him.
Meanwhile, he's brittle. He didn't play yesterday. But he was the guy who kind of started this, where the Patriots had a parade a couple of years ago, and Gronk was yelling at people, "Oh, throw me a beer, throw me a beer." So it's kind of turned into a thing now.
Oh, okay.
Where idiots throw full beers to players.
Well,
hey, what if the player's not looking?
Well,
you
that's the thing.
Hit in the head with a can of beer.
It's one thing if Gronk, who's obviously a little drunk probably during the parade, if he says throw me a beer and he's waiting for it, it's another thing to just to throw it there and not have them expecting it, because then that's what happened. The trophy got hit.
Some idiot threw a beer into they have those ridiculous duck boats, and the players, whoever the player was who was holding the World Series trophy.
Right.
And the beer hit, like the World Series trophies has all of these little
flags.
poles with the flags, and it's a beautiful trophy. But now a can of beer hits this thing and knocked out like 3 of those flags.
I know.
So now the World Series trophy is broken and damaged, and it's all because of just idiots. I mean,
well, it's funny because
what's wrong with these people?
We've heard stories over the years about how the Stanley Cup, it's had to been fixed.
Stanley Cups had some. If the Stanley Cup could talk, it would have a lot of great stories.
But the part of the Stanley Cup is it's the People's Cup.
Exactly.
So
they now it wasn't always the case, but now they allow the players each player gets a day with the cup. You get I think it was Clark Gillis said he gave his dog drank out of the cup. Maybe it was Brian Trotty. Somebody gave their kid a bath in the Stanley Cup, which is pretty hysterical. But like I said, and the Montreal Canadiens one year left the cup on the side of the road. They were all drinking in the car and driving wherever, and they went up with a flat tire, and they had to empty the car to jack it up and change the tire, and they left the cup on the side of the road.
How do you forget that?
Unbelievable.
By the way, one more thing. In Boston, the team went out some giant party somewhere. Did you hear about this?
No.
What happened? It cost like $350,000 for the party, all the players and I guess family members, and the Red Sox covered five.
They weren't at the Hong Kong Gardens.
That's right. And supposedly the Red Sox, the team, said, "Well, here's $500,000," and basically they left a tip of like $100,000.
They should.
I was like, wow! Imagine you're serving that deal.
If you're up. I mean, first of all, they probably. It was probably a closed event.
I'm sure it was.
So it was all players and family and friends and whatever, which I'm still was sure hundreds of people.
I'm sure.
But, that's what it should be. And the team should hey, go ahead, blow off some steam. We'll make sure you guys get cars off to get you home.
Yep.
And let's not have any lawsuits.
Yeah, anyway, we're going to take a break right now. You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC. I'm Rob Leonard. He is Tim Leonard. Tim, you're at Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
You want the news? You can't handle the news.
Dude, that's a little dramatic, don't you think?
News, wherefore art thou news?
Still dramatic.
It was the best of news. It was the worst of news.
Seriously?
All right, I give up. It's just the news.
Get all the day's news all in one place. All from the students at the Voice of Nassau Community College.
My mama always said life was like a box of news. You never know what you're going to get.
Unbelievable.
The WHPC 4:30 News Wrap-Up. Weekday afternoons at, 4:30 on 90.3 WHPC.
Shake off the realities of the day, broaden your musical horizons, and embrace the diversity every Monday afternoon at 6 on Revelations. The show offers a potently unique collection of music with an emphasis on themes and rock rarities, an occasional tour de force of blues and soul, mixed with compelling sets of folk and folk rock. I'm Steve Kay, and I've got the perfect soundtrack for your drive home every Monday afternoon at 6 on Revelations, right here on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
We're back here on 90.3 WHPC, the Voice of Nassau Community College. This is From the Press Box, part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. I'm Rob Leonard. He's Tim Leonard. And we're talking sports as we do every Monday. This show will turn into a podcast later on Spreaker.com and many of the other places where they have podcasts. If you want to hear the show, or if you miss part of it, or maybe some people just listen to us, on Tuesdays or something. We don't know. Anyway, brother, we've got to talk about the Mets hired a new GM, and some people might not be thrilled by this signing as Brody Van Wagenen.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I've never heard of an agent getting hired to be a GM for baseball.
It's happened. Dave Stewart did it.
Okay, but still
with the Diamondbacks, but that ended horribly, and he made an atrocious trade as one of his first actions. He wound up acquiring Shelby Miller and gave up a ton of prospects. Let's look. I don't know what the Mets are doing.
I don't either,
because you would think
little Jeffy likes him though.
Well, yeah, but that's part of the problem. I don't. There are so many conflicts involved in hiring this guy to be your GM. That's a big problem right there. Here's the guy who a few months ago told the Mets either pay Jacob deGrom or he's walking, or trade him.
And he's Jacob deGrom's.
And he was Jacob deGrom's agent. Now he's Jacob deGrom's GM,
boss. So,
I'm fairly certain that Van Wagenen and Jacob deGrom at some point talked dollar figures, and Van Wagenen told him, "Hey, this is what you need to be aiming for." Well, now when Jacob deGrom goes into the office and says, "All right, let's talk about my contract." Hey, that number you said that was a pretty good number. Let's start there. And now Van Wagenen is going to say, "Well, I can't pay you that much."
Or he's going to say, "I can't be part of this negotiation because I used to work for you,"
which probably is going to happen.
And then that number all of a sudden is erased, and the Mets were going to say, "Well, why should we pay you a lot of money?" Because we're the Mets.
Jacob deGrom, that's why.
Yeah, I know, but the Mets think sometimes that we're still the Mets, and that 2015 is going to happen every year, which it hasn't happened.
No,
and 2015, think about it, was a fantastic year for him. 2016 was a fantastic year for him.
Yeah, but then Yoenis Cespedes turned into a crybaby who kept getting hurt and refused to stretch, and now he's got quad issues, and he just had his second heel surgery, and it's a mess. But right now, I mean, the only good thing to me that could come out of this is that hiring this guy goes so against the grain as far as baseball people are concerned, that maybe the Wilpons decide to spend more money this offseason because they so much want this guy to succeed so that they look smart for hiring him. But if the Mets are just going to go according to the same path that they have been going on for the last few years, then it's not going to work. Because the Mets need enormous help. They need practically a whole new bullpen.
Right.
They need a closer. They can't rely on Seth Lugo and Robert Gesellman in their bullpen for
their bullpen's been horrible.
Their bullpen was a horror show.
How many games did Jacob deGrom not win because of the bullpen? At least 10.
Probably, yeah, I would say probably close to 10.
So,
but I mean, this is what they need to do. They need to rebuild their bullpen. They need impact bats in several spots. Especially first base. Catcher is another need.
Right.
Are the Wilpons willing to bump the payroll up to the 180, 190 million mark from 150 where it's been? And it's not. I know it's going to sound strange to say this. It's not a lot of money to work with, but they need to do that. And I don't know if they're going to. And the problem is that this Van Wagenen, obviously he knows how to be a GM, even though he's never done it. It's not, it's not rocket science here. But you need to be able to identify players. That's the key, and you need to be able to have the personality to bring those players in. It's not always all about money.
Oh, I agree with that.
So, but you need to. He said we're going to create a winning culture here. Well, that's lip service. You don't.
First
do
of all,
that
they had a winning culture 2 years ago. You made the playoffs. The year before, you made the World Series.
Well,
I mean, that's a winning culture. And then
yes and no, but the last 2 years have been a disaster.
Well, last 2 years have been horrible
because everybody's getting hurt. The organization has turned into a bit of a joke. The Wilpons are as has been documented in the newspaper, they're way too obsessed with what the Yankees are doing as opposed to what they need to be doing.
They're obsessed. The Wilpons have always been obsessed of status in New York City. But not just with the Yankees, but with their friends.
I understand that. But if they're so obsessed with it, then fine. Then play like a big market team. Start spending some money. Get your payroll up to $200 million and get better players. Because the way they're doing it right now, it's like they're the Kansas City Royals or the Cleveland Indians.
Right.
Where they have very real budget issues. The Mets shouldn't have those issues. And yet they still do. And nobody knows if it's from the Madoff thing, which should be, they should have recovered from by now.
They did because they went and got money from everyone. The fact that Jerry Seinfeld and Bill Maher owned,
I understand that.
2% of the team or whatever, and the fact that Major League Baseball gave them a loan.
Right, but they had to pay that back. So,
I know that, but...
And I don't know if, I assume Seinfeld still owns his little piece of the team.
Yeah, I think he does.
But the Mets need to be a big market team.
Oh, I know that.
And they want to be a team that develops players, and they want to be in that Mets tradition. But the fact of the matter is their farm system is fairly barren, with the exception of maybe 3 players or 4 players. But there's not a lot in the pipeline right now.
No.
So you need to go out and get some players, especially, like I said, especially the bullpen. If the strength of your team is going to be your rotation, and obviously that is the strength of the Mets team, then you need a bullpen that's going to lock down games. You can't allow Jacob deGrom to have a 1.6 ERA and be a game above 500.
No.
You can't let that happen. So if pitching is going to be your focus, Anthony Swarzak should not be your high-profile free agent relief pitcher signing. And that's what he was last year. 2 years, $14 million for a guy who wound up getting hurt and whose ERA was over 6.
Yeah,
all right, you can't do that. So, I'm wondering right now, and here's I'm going to throw out a name. Would the Mets reunite with Daniel Murphy?
I would love to see
There's
it
a
happen.
need. There's a need there.
You know what? I still wish they'd kept him.
Well,
I understand why they let him go.
He's got a leg issue.
That's
he
true.
had the microfracture surgery. His movement last year. He probably could shift to first base, and the Mets obviously still have a hole there until at least Peter Alonso is deemed ready. But Murphy is a guy who probably could play a couple of different positions, even though mobility-wise he's not what he used to be. But could the bat, obviously, as soon as he left the Mets, the bat turned elite.
It did.
And
typical Mets trade.
That's a guy,
or dismissal, I should say.
That's a guy who I could see the Mets bringing back on a reasonable contract.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Murphy's not going to break the bank. Like I said, the physical issues. You wonder, is the guy going to keep breaking down and continue to break down?
He got his money from the Nationals.
Yeah, he did. But then they traded him to the Cubs last year in the second half of the season. So, that's one way for the Mets to go. I don't think they should bring back Jeurys Familia. I know the fans are he's our guy, but he's also a bit of a heart attack. He's not reliable. So why not? To me, if the Mets go out and really try to sign Craig Kimbrell, then we're talking about we're gonna show people that we're for real.
Okay, well, it's going to be an interesting new era, so to speak, for the Mets. Whether they live up to it or not, I don't know. I don't know about this Brody guy. I'm just going to call him the Brody guy.
Van Wagenen. Too much. I disagreed with it. I thought they needed a real baseball, somebody with some experience, and somebody with those kind of ideas. This is too outside the box.
Yeah, this is like down the street, down the box.
Right.
Anyway, Tim, thanks for joining us as we always do. Every Monday, 9 to 10, right here on From the Press Box. I am Rob Leonard. Tim is Tim Leonard right there.
Still am.
You're on Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
And just as a reminder, brother, Good Gold, Mondays, 10 a.m. Coming up next, Big Ed Newlands plays the hits and the forgotten hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He doesn't play any of that 80s stuff, 90s stuff. Ed doesn't even know what decade that is. 2000s. Actually, he probably knows 2000s. He was a club DJ for a while. His club DJ name was DJ Ed Newlands. Anyway, he's coming up next with Good Gold, so keep it tuned here to WHPC. We are on Spreaker.com if you want to hear us as a podcast. And thank you for joining us. Take care and bye-bye.
This show